Belgium 4, USA 1. A knockout match at Lumen Field in Seattle, where the host nation's World Cup dream ended in the round of 16. Grab a coffee. Daniel, Grace, and Maya are breaking down every goal, minute by minute. And along the way, you'll pick up 9 idioms. Dog eat dog, get down to business, stand one's ground, corner the market, cave in, burn the candle at both ends, a gold mine, keep under wraps, and learning curve.
Okay, you both saw the score, right? Belgium 4, USA 1.
I saw it on my phone this morning and just stared at it. 4-1?
Wait, I missed the whole thing. Where did this even happen?
Lumen Field, Seattle. Round of 16, win or go home. No group stage points to fall back on, nothing to cushion it.
Right. This isn't like the group stage where a loss still leaves you options. Lose this one, and you're done.
So the US is just out after hosting the whole tournament?
Out. Eliminated. Belgium move on to the quarterfinals, and the US goes home in front of their own fans.
That's the brutal part of a knockout round. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. One bad half, and your tournament's over, no matter how hard you work to get here.
Dog eat dog. I've heard that phrase, just never really in this context.
It fits. Every team left in this bracket is dangerous. Nobody's handed anything.
And Belgium's a top 10 side. Experienced, relentless. Beating them was always going to be a tall ask for the US, host nation or not.
So this wasn't really a huge shock that they lost?
Losing, no. Losing by that margin, yes. That part surprised all of us.
Right. Nobody expected 4-1. That's not a normal knockout scoreline.
Okay, I need the whole story. Start from the first goal.
Deal. Let me pull up the clip.
Let's pause on the phrase, dog eat dog. It describes a situation, industry, or contest so fiercely competitive that everyone is only looking out for themselves, and only the strongest survive. The phrase flips an old Latin proverb, a dog does not eat dog, which claimed even animals wouldn't turn on their own kind. English speakers inverted it centuries ago to describe a world so cutthroat that even that old rule no longer holds. Use it for competitive environments with real losers, not just busy ones. A hectic kitchen isn't necessarily dog-eat-dogs unless people are actively working against each other to get ahead. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. One bad half, and your tournament's over, no matter how hard you worked to get here. The used car business in this city is dog eat dog. Dealers undercut each other every single week. Freshman year of law school felt dog eat dog. Everyone was fighting for the same 10 spots on the journal.
Okay, let's get down to business. This is Minute 9, Belgium's opener.
9 minutes in? That's fast.
Belgium came out sharp. Watch how they build it.
They're playing right to left. Trossard gets a long switch out near the end line and controls it first touch.
Trossard's the one on the left?
Left wing, yeah. He crosses it in, but Alex Freeman, US defender, gets across and blocks it.
Good defending, actually. But the ball doesn't go anywhere safe.
Right. It falls loose right back inside the box near the end line, and Nicholas Raskin is first to it.
Wait, who's Raskin?
Belgian midfielder. He collects the loose ball, takes a touch, and hooks a low cross across the face of the goal.
And that's when De Ketelaere makes his move. A darting run that beats the US backline completely.
So he's just open?
Wide open, 6 yards out. He finishes close range. Belgium 1, USA 0.
Clean move, blocked shot, second ball, cross, finish. 4 actions, 1 goal.
And Raskin gets the assist for that cross?
Exactly. Raskin's assist, De Keteleri's goal. 9 minutes on the clock.
That's the template for the whole game, honestly. Keep that shape in mind.
Let's pause on the phrase, get down to business, to stop the small talk or warm up and focus directly on the important task at hand. The phrase comes from old commercial and trade language, where business meant the actual matter to be transacted. Getting down to it meant leaving pleasantries behind and settling into the real work, a usage traced back to at least the 19th century. It signals a shift, so it works best right after some casual moment. Using it to open a conversation with no warm-up first can sound abrupt. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. Let's get down to business. This is Minute 9, Belgium's opener. The meeting started with coffee and jokes, but after 10 minutes, the CEO said it was time to get down to business. We caught up for a bit, then got down to business and planned the whole trip in 20 minutes.
Okay, minute 31. This is the goal that got the US back into it.
Finally, some good news.
It starts with Balogun actually, not with the shot.
The striker.
Right. He's just outside the top of the penalty arc, defender leaning into him, and Balogun stands his ground instead of getting knocked off the ball.
He doesn't back down, holds the position, and the ref blows for a foul right there.
So it's a free kick from like 28 yards?
About that, yeah. Tillman steps up and strikes it right-footed.
And it's not even a clean strike that beats the keeper. It deflects off the head of a Belgian defender in the wall.
Oh, so it's a deflection.
Total deflection. It wrong-foots Courtois completely. He's already moving one way, and it spins into the middle of the net.
1. And get this. That was the USA's very first shot of the whole match.
Their first shot ties the game? That's wild.
It is. Not a lucky goal exactly, but the deflection did a lot of the work. Still counts the same on the scoreboard though.
And it wasn't some late consolation goal either. This is Minute 31, first half, game level at 1-1.
Okay, so at this point it's a real contest again.
For about 2 minutes, yeah.
Let's pause on the phrase, stand one's ground. To hold your position and refuse to back down or move, even when someone or something is pressuring you to give way. It's a literal military phrase. Soldiers were ordered to stand their ground rather than retreat under attack, holding a defensive line at all costs. The image of refusing to yield physical territory carried over into everyday arguments and confrontations. It's about holding a position under pressure, not about attacking. You can stand your ground peacefully without any aggression involved. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. Balogun stands his ground instead of getting knocked off the ball, and the ref blows for a foul. The landlord tried to raise the rent mid-lease, but she stood her ground and refused to sign anything new. He stood his ground in the negotiation, even when the other side threatened to walk away.
Okay, this next one happens fast, only 2 minutes after the equalizer.
2 minutes? Belgium didn't even let them enjoy it.
Minute 33. And it's almost a copy of the first goal.
Same players?
Same idea. Belgium work it right to left again, and Trossard drives all the way to the end line.
He's basically cornered the market on that move today. Every dangerous ball is coming from him on the left.
So, he crosses it again.
Crosses into the 6-yard box, and De Ketelaere times his jump perfectly.
He gets above Tim Ream, the U.S. center back, and heads it home at the far post.
Wait, so that's his second goal of the game?
His second. A brace. And Trossard gets his second assist too. Same combination as the first goal, basically.
2-1 Belgium, right before halftime.
So, at the half, it's 2-1, not 2-0 like I thought when someone mentioned the score earlier.
2-1 exactly. The US were still in the game at the break.
Barely, but yes. And De Ketelaere is already the best player on the pitch at this point.
Just from those 2 goals?
2 goals and an assist by the end of the match, actually. He was everywhere.
Let's pause on the phrase, corner the market. To gain such complete control over one area, product, or resource that almost nobody else can compete in it. It comes straight from stock and commodity trading, where a trader who bought up nearly the entire available supply of something, wheat, silver, a stock, was said to have cornered it, boxing out every other buyer or seller from that market. It implies near total dominance, not just being good at something. Reserve it for situations where a person or group has genuinely pushed out the competition. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. Trossard has basically cornered the market on that move today. Every dangerous ball is coming from him on the left. That one bakery has cornered the market on birthday cakes in this neighborhood. Nobody else even tries to compete. She's cornered the market on last-minute event planning. Everyone calls her first.
All right, second half. Minute 57. This is the one that really broke the game open.
Broke it open how?
It starts with a mistake, honestly. Freeze, the US keeper, has a loose ball outside his box.
The goalkeeper's outside the box?
Sometimes keepers step out to sweep up a ball behind the defense, but he takes too long on it.
Way too long. De Ketelaere closes him down and just takes the ball off him.
Right off his feet?
Right off his feet. And that's when Ream, the center back, is completely off balance trying to cover.
The whole back line just caves in for a second. Nobody's organized, nobody's covering the middle.
And Belgium punishes that?
Instantly. Hans Venneken is there, and he fires a one-timer from about 35 yards.
35 yards? Into an empty net, I'm guessing, since the keeper's out of position.
Exactly. Empty net. 3-1 Belgium.
It's the kind of goal you only concede when your structure falls apart. Not one Belgium had to work hard for.
That's the thing about this match. It wasn't just De Ketelaere being brilliant, it was the US giving one away, too.
So, 3-1, 57 minutes. Things are looking rough.
Very rough. And the US still had to chase the game from there, which opens up even more space at the back.
Let's pause on the phrase, cave in, to suddenly collapse or give way under pressure, whether that's a physical structure, a defense, or someone's resistance in an argument. It's literally about mines and tunnels. When the support beams failed and the ceiling gave way, miners called it a cave-in. The physical image of a structure suddenly collapsing under weight became a metaphor for anything, a defense, a person's willpower, buckling all at once. It usually implies a sudden collapse after resisting for a while, not just any failure. Use it for a hold that breaks, not a weakness that was there from the start. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. The whole back line just caves in for a second. Nobody's organized. Nobody's covering the middle. I told myself I wouldn't order dessert, but I caved in the second the menu came out. The company held firm on the price for weeks, then caved in during the final round of talks.
Okay, last goal. Stoppage time, minute 90 plus 3.
So basically, the very end of the match.
By this point, the U.S. has to be pushing everyone forward, trying to get a second goal back.
Right, and that's part of the problem. They've been burning the candle at both ends for the last half hour, attacking hard while their defense was exhausted from chasing the game.
So they're stretched thin.
Completely. And this goal shows exactly why that's dangerous.
Vanaken presses high up the pitch, and Chris Richards, U.S. defender, tries to dribble his way out from the back.
That seems risky that late in the game.
It is. Richards runs straight into Vanaken's pressure and loses the ball.
Vanaken dispossesses him, the ball drops loose, and Romelu Lukaku, who's just come on as a substitute, is right there.
Lukaku finishes it?
Clinically. 4-1, and that's basically the final whistle a couple minutes later.
Vanaken gets his second assist of the match too, on top of his own goal.
So the U.S. pushing for a second goal is actually part of why they conceded a fourth?
Exactly that. Every time they went searching for a goal, they left more space behind them, and Belgium kept finding it.
That's the whole story of the 4-1 margin, really. Not one bad moment, but that pattern repeating.
Okay, that actually makes the scoreline make a lot more sense. Let's pause on the phrase, burn the candle at both ends. To push yourself in two directions at once, usually working too hard and resting too little, until you exhaust yourself. Before electric light, a candle burning from both ends at once gave off more light, but burned out in a fraction of the normal time. The image became a warning. You can push harder for a while, but you'll run out of fuel much faster than you expect. It's almost always used as a warning or explanation for burnout. It describes an unsustainable pace, not just being generally busy. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. They've been burning the candle at both ends for the last half hour, attacking hard while their defense was exhausted from chasing the game. She's been burning the candle at both ends all semester. Full-time classes during the day and a night shift job. He burned the candle at both ends, training for the marathon and working overtime, and then got sick right before race day.
Okay, I actually wrote some of the stats down because the numbers tell a wild story on their own.
Wait, you took notes during a soccer match?
I like data, don't judge me. Look. USA had 56% possession, Belgium only 44%.
So the U.S. had the ball more? Then how did they lose 4-1?
That's the paradox. More of the ball doesn't mean more danger.
USA had 459 passes at 87% accuracy. Belgium only 334 passes at 81%.
That sounds like the US was way better, honestly.
On paper, sure, but here's the number that actually matters. Expected goals. USA had 0.63. Belgium had 2.01.
And USA created 0 big chances the entire match. 0. Belgium created 4.
0 big chances with 56% of the ball? How is that possible?
Because most of that possession was safe and horizontal, passing it around the back and midfield, never actually breaking Belgium's defensive block.
Even Belgium's misses tell the story. They missed 2 big chances themselves and still scored 4 goals.
This match is honestly a goldmine if you actually care about how football works. The stats explain exactly why the scoreline looks the way it does.
So having the ball isn't the same as threatening the goal.
Exactly. That's the whole lesson of this game in one sentence.
Shots on target tell it too. USA had 7 shots, only 2 on target. Belgium had 15 shots, 7 on target.
Okay, that's a completely different picture than just hearing 4-1. Let's pause on the phrase, a gold mine. A source that's unusually rich in something valuable, information, opportunity, or material. Much more than you'd expect. It's a direct borrowing from actual mining. A gold mine is a site that produces gold, and during gold rushes the phrase became shorthand for any place suddenly overflowing with wealth. English speakers extended it to anything unexpectedly rich in value, not just literal gold. It's usually about information, ideas, or resources being unexpectedly abundant. Not about literal money, even though the phrase comes from mining. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. This match is honestly a gold mine if you actually care about how football works. The stats explain exactly why the scoreline looks the way it does. Her grandmother's old letters turned out to be a gold mine for the family history project. That secondhand bookstore is a gold mine. I've found first editions there for a few dollars. Okay, I want the actual mechanics now. Why didn't the US ever break through?
It comes down to a few specific things. First, the right side of the US defense. Sergino Dest.
Belgium targeted him on purpose. Trossard and their left back, De Kuyper, basically double-teamed him the entire first half.
2 players against 1?
Constantly. Dest had 0 attacking crosses the whole time he was on the pitch. 0.
Pochettino, the US coach, subbed him off at halftime because it clearly wasn't working.
So that was the plan from the start?
Almost certainly. Belgium's manager, Rudy Garcia, kept that game plan under wraps before kickoff. Nobody saw it coming until it was already happening on the pitch.
Then in the middle of the field, Onana and Raskin basically built a wall. 2 strong, physical midfielders.
And that stopped the US midfielders?
Tillman and McKennie couldn't get forward passes through them, so they kept having to pass sideways or backward instead.
Tillman still had 45 passes at 89%, so he wasn't playing badly. He just had nowhere dangerous to send the ball.
What about Pulisic? I feel like I always hear his name.
He was carrying a calf injury the whole match. 0 shots on target, and he came off in the 59th minute.
Without him beating defenders one-on-one, there was no way to feed Balogun up front with a real chance.
So it's Dest getting isolated, the midfield getting walled off, and Pulisic not fully fit.
All 3 at once. That's why 56% possession still produced almost nothing.
It really was a plan Garcia had clearly built in before kickoff, and the U.S. never found an answer to it.
Let's pause on the phrase, keep under wraps, to keep something secret or hidden from public knowledge until you're ready to reveal it. It comes from covering something valuable with cloth wrapping to protect and conceal it, literally keeping it wrapped up, out of sight. A usage that dates back to at least the early 20th century in American English, often used for unreleased plans or products. It's about deliberate secrecy before a planned reveal, not about something simply being unknown by accident. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. Belgium's manager kept that game plan under wraps before kickoff. Nobody saw it coming until it was already happening on the pitch. The studio kept the movie's ending under wraps until opening night. She kept her promotion under wraps for 2 weeks before telling anyone at work.
So, stepping back, I don't think anyone should call this an upset.
No. Belgium's a top 10 team with players who've been through this stage before. This was always going to be hard for the U.S.
But 4-1 still feels like a lot, even if losing wasn't surprising.
It is a lot. But it wasn't one moment. It was the free kick deflection, the freeze error, the chasing the game spiral, all stacking up.
And I wouldn't call Tillman's goal a consolation either. It leveled the score at 1-1 in the first half. That's a real equalizer, not a nice gesture.
Right. They were tied at one point. That matters.
It does. This is a young U.S. squad, and honestly, this match was a pretty steep learning curve for them.
Exactly. Turning 56% possession into actual chances, closing out a game once you're ahead, defending after you concede. Those are things you learn by going through nights like this.
So, where does Belgium go from here?
Quarterfinals. They play Spain next.
Tough opponent. But after a performance like this, 2 goals and an assist for De Ketelaere, that kind of ruthlessness, they'll go in with real confidence.
And for the U.S., it's back home to figure out what comes next.
Pochettino already said as much, took responsibility, said the early lapses hurt them, and that the long-term project isn't going anywhere.
That's probably the right read. You don't fix a learning curve like this in one tournament. You fix it over years.
Okay, I actually understand this whole match now. Way better than just seeing 4-1s on a headline.
That's the goal. Numbers on a screen versus actually knowing how the game unfolded. Pretty different things.
All right, I think that's everything. Good coffee, sad result, good breakdown.
Let's pause on the phrase, learning curve. The process of learning a new skill, especially the early stage when it's difficult and progress feels slow. It comes from a real graph psychologists and trainers use to plot how quickly someone improves at a task over time. A steep learning curve means fast improvement is demanded quickly, which is why the phrase is often used for something that's hard to pick up right away. Careful with steeps. A steep learning curve is technically hard and fast, but most speakers use it loosely to mean difficult, so don't overcorrect someone using it that way. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. This match was a pretty steep learning curve for them. Switching careers into software had a steep learning curve at first, but it got easier after a few months. Learning to cook without a recipe was a real learning curve for me. Let's run back through everything the story taught you today. First, dog eat dog, a fiercely competitive situation where only the strongest survive, like the winner go home stakes of a World Cup knockout round. Next, get down to business. Dropping the small talk and turning straight to the real task, the way Daniel queued up that first goal. Then stand one's ground, holding your position and refusing to be pushed back, exactly what Balogun did to win that free kick. After that, corner the market, gaining such total control of one area that nobody else can compete there, like Trossard owning the entire left flank. Then, cave in, suddenly collapsing under pressure, the way the U.S. backline fell apart for that third goal. Next, burn the candle at both ends, pushing yourself in two directions at once until you run out of energy, just like the U.S. attacking hard while their tired defense was left exposed. Then, a gold mine. An unexpectedly rich source of value, like those match stats that explain the whole result. After that, keep under wraps, deliberately hiding a plan until you're ready to reveal it, the way Belgium's coach hid his game plan for Sergino Dest. And finally, learning curve. The process of learning something new, often the hard way, which is exactly what this match was for a young U.S. squad. 9 idioms. 1 wild 90 minutes of football. Nice work. Now let's test your understanding of these 6 idioms. For each question, listen carefully to the situation and choose the correct idiom. You'll have about 10 seconds to think before you answer. In a knockout round, one bad half ends your tournament. It's a real blank world out there. The answer is dog eat dog. Which idiom means refusing to be pushed back or knocked off your position under pressure? The answer is stand one's ground. Trossard was so dominant on the left flank that he'd basically blank that side of the pitch. The answer is corner the market. Which idiom describes a defense suddenly collapsing under pressure with nobody organized? The answer is cave in. Those match stats were a blank of insight into why the scoreline looked the way it did. The answer is a gold mine. Which idiom fits going through something difficult for the first time and gradually improving? The answer is learning curve. So there it is. Belgium 4, USA 1. A knockout match where every mistake got punished and every half chance turned into a goal. We watched Charles de Keteleri's brace and assist tear the U.S. right side apart, We saw the paradox of 56% possession, producing 0 big chances, and we picked up 9 idioms along the way. From a dog-eat-dog knockout stage to a young squad facing a real learning curve. The takeaway: having the ball is never the same as threatening the goal, and knowing what a phrase means is never the same as being able to use it. So keep saying these idioms out loud until they're yours as naturally as talking about the score.
Moments in English. Live the moment. Make it yours.